I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Councillor Dubanow, would you be good enough to read the land acknowledgement, please?
I would, Your Worship. We acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two rural wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let's be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island.
Thank you very much. Would you all please rise for the invocation?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Your Worship, all members of council are present with the exception of Councillor Flagg and Councillor Lewis, and Regional Councillor Insina is also absent.
Yeah, my understanding is that Councillor Insina had a late changing development, and he will be delayed. He's hoping to be here later this evening. With respect to announcements, I want to thank everybody who participated in the Earth Day or spring cleanups this April. There was a fair bit of work done right across the community. A large number of groups participated. Town staff was involved, and the municipality facilitated that. I expect that next year we will have an Adopt a Road, Adopt a Park, Adopt a Trail program that will be more formalized, and we'll be able to do even more next year. The Better Regional Governance Act is proceeding through committee hearings next week. We will be filing at least comments with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and they will be along the lines of the resolution that this council passed on April the 13th regarding governance. With respect to the Fort Erie Fire Department, their annual awards banquet will be held next Saturday, May the 2nd, and we have a meeting, the CAO and I, with Sam Oosterhoff next Friday to discuss some of the town's issues. There is one addendum this evening, and that is the removal of a closed session item regarding the legal opinion municipal service corporations, and the removal of a delegation, Daniel Geniak, with respect to the Fort Erie Soccer Club. That then takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? If there are none, then Councillor Dubanow, I understand you have the resolution for us to move into closed session.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that council does now go into closed session at 5:05 p.m. to consider the following. 7.2, Bridgebridge Station Business Improvement Area Board of Management application pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 7.3, Senior Citizens Advisory Committee application pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 7.4, Ridgeway Business Improvement Area Board of Management applications pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 7.5, Report LLS 05026, Crystal Beach Yacht Club shoreline protection pursuant to Section 239(2)F of the Municipal Act 2001. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And 7.6, CAO performance review pursuant to Section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001. Personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Are there any questions or comments? Before we call the vote, Madam Clerk, is it intended that we will resume the council meeting after the closed session, even if it's not 6 o'clock? Or is it the intention to proceed with the balance of the business at 6 o'clock if we complete the closed session matters prior to that time?
Your worship, the intention is to start regular council at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of moving into closed session? None opposed, that is carried. Okay, we're back in the council chambers, and Councillor Lewis, you have the resolution for us to rise and reconvene.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen. The council does now rise and reconvene from closed session at 6:00 p.m. with report 7.2 that council appoint Ryan Warren to the Bridgeburg Station Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the term ending November the 14th, 2026, or until his successor is appointed. 7.3 that council appoint Beverly Tripp to the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee for the term ending November the 14th, 2026, or until her successor is appointed. 7.4 that council appoint Chelsea Hartley, Megan Wincher, Rob Faragalli, and Preet Singh to the Ridgeway Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the term ending November the 14th, 2026, or until their successors are appointed. 7.5 that council receives confidential report LLS 052026 Crystal Beach Yacht Club Shoreline Protection and authorize town solicitor to proceed as directed in closed session. And 7.6 that council authorize staff to proceed as directed in closed session.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor of those resolutions? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to notice of upcoming public meetings, and there is a public meeting with respect to 125 Central Avenue on, it's an open house, sorry, on Thursday, May the 7th, 2026 at 5 p.m. here in the Atrium Town Hall. And the regional councillor will be delayed, and we'll hold him down until such time as he gets here. That would take us then to presentations and delegations. And before we proceed to that, I just want to confirm with those who are here, the matter with respect to 19 Derby Road, as I understand it, has been further deferred. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, so the matter of 19 Derby Road, for those who are here who are interested in that, isn't going to be on the agenda this evening. It's been deferred for some further discussions. So rather than have you wait hours like you did the last time you folks were here, I thought I could let you know in advance. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we do have a presentation this evening, but I see that the individuals who are to receive those certificates aren't here yet. So I'm going to ask Aaron Hare, the project manager of policy for our planning department, to come forward and provide us with his comments with respect to Bill 98, Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act 2026. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As I mentioned, my name is Aaron Hare. I'm a project officer project manager with the town's community planning department. I'm here tonight to present the latest provincial bill affecting planning. Okay, thanks, Cole. Yeah, so the purpose of this presentation is to provide council with a brief overview of Bill 98, which is titled Building Homes and Improving Transportation Infrastructure Act. As well as the purpose of the presentation is to highlight the proposed changes to Ontario's planning framework, identify potential implications for the town of Fort Erie. I just want to note that not all the details are made publicly available yet, so we don't know the full impact that it will have on the town. So ERO 26-300 is a broad amendment to the Planning Act and related legislation. The proposal is essentially to standardize official plans, land use designation, and its implementation tools. It does have the potential to impact our recently adopted official plan that has been submitted to the province back in September, which is still waiting for approval. Some of our key issues to date do follow around the transition timing. In the legislation, they are saying quick and fast-growing municipalities have until 2028 to update their official plans to comply, and all other municipalities have until 2029. As well as it does say that municipalities then do have to follow their regular schedule update, so that could mean that we're potentially updating our official plan again in 2036 to deal with these changes. as well as there is some conformity exercises or expectations, as well as there's other concerns are recognition of our recent planning work that has been done to date. Okay, so again, they are proposing to standardize official plans. We do have several slides on this, but they really focus on, right at this time, having a standard table of contents, standard land use designations, and standard schedules. So they're proposing to have a standard table of contents with the following information that is on here. As you'll notice, there are no headings that speak to affordable or attainable housing. Perhaps once the regulations are further fleshed out, we'll be able to address those matters under such things as residential or mixed use, but at this time, there is a bit of a question mark. They are also proposing to standardize all the schedules in the official plan. These are essentially the maps. The town's adopted new official plan has 16 schedules. The province is proposing to reduce everything down to 10, and these will be essentially standardized across all municipalities which are single or lower tier. Again, further, our adopted official plan does have a bunch of sub-schedules, which help further clarify where different things are, especially on site-specific policies. Those could potentially be lost. They are also proposing that all municipalities in Ontario have standard land use designations. They have stated that this would make it a lot more easier for a development in one municipality to be replicated in another municipality. I just want to point that out. Having standardized land use designations would not make that achievable on its own. There would have to be standardized policies as well as standardized zoning regulations. And if you read the transcripts, that is the way that they're heading. I also want to just point out there's these, as well as these are the rest of the land use designations. As you'll notice, there's no special economic zone or international gateway. Those are two land use designations that the town of Fort Erie does have. Our special economic zone really applies to our racetrack area and practice track, and the international gateway focus on the Peace Bridge area. So how those would be able to fit into our new official plan in the future is a question. Oh, site plan control. This one's going to be an interesting one. So they are proposing some significant reform here. There are two possible options that they're playing with. One is to remove site plan as a planning tool in its entirety and replacing it with a health and safety checklist. We have no information on this health and safety checklist at this time, Council. Further to, again, perhaps they are considering keeping site plan, but further restricting it. So they want to further the scope of site plan review process to essentially a standardized approved checklist of functional aspects of the site with uses such as certified professionals for acceptance and approval of the reports and studies. At this time, through Bill 17, they did identify as professional engineers as prescribed professionals. So when we do get reports from professional engineers, we have to accept them. Once the application is complete, then we can scrutinize them. They are also considering requiring municipalities to have a maximum of 3 circulations, after which a mandatory meeting would be required with all relevant municipal departments to work out any of the issues. Administration actually sees this as a very positive change. As well as they're proposing to establish a municipal arbitration process in lieu of a potential appeal. So as many of us remember, Bill 23 was introduced in 2022, and it did make changes to parkland dedication. They are now finally implementing those rules. So essentially, developers will be able to identify where they want to submit their parkland. They do not have to follow the town's Parks and Master Space Open Plan, as well as they are going to, essentially they can dedicate encumbered lands. These are essentially lands that have potentially utilities underneath them, as well as another example that they're providing is lands that potentially have a parking garage underneath. As you can imagine, those aren't really great for developing parks on. You can maybe have some grass surfaced, but you wouldn't be able to have splash pads or play equipment on those. Again, if municipalities do not like where the developers are proposing it, it's now an OLT matter. So that, yes, this could affect the quality, location, and usability of the parkland in the town. Okay, they are also dealing with a little bit more complete applications and essentially trying to standardize a list of required studies. Those are going to be shown on the next few slides. They're also adding to expand on those professional, prescribed professionals, and they are considering right now adding landscape architects as those. We have spoken with our parks and landscape architect staff. They don't have any issues with that. They state that the objective is to create and to increase certainty and predictability for applicants. It's detailed more in my report, but core studies are the studies that we would have the ability to ask for any application. And then what they're introducing is a thing called contingent studies. So other studies that we may be able to ask for if certain circumstances arise. So if there has potential for archaeological assessment or archaeological potential, then we can ask for an archaeological assessment. If it's adjacent to a heritage building, then we can ask for a cultural heritage impact assessment. So in the proposed legislation, these all have requirements that would have to be met in order for us to ask for those studies. When they removed the Planning Act, or sorry, the provincial policy statement and updated it with the provincial planning statement, they also changed how we do with population and employment projections. We are now to use the ministry's projections. They now have a guide as to how to use those. We have reviewed the guide. We don't have really an issue with that at this time. This one I think will probably be the biggest one to get over for a lot of people, is they're proposing to introduce a minimum lot size. So these would be applicable to any parcel of urban residential land. That is a defined term. It is essentially any land within an urban settlement that permits residential lands that has water and sewer. So pretty much anywhere in our settlement area that we permit residential, we will have to present a minimum lot size of 175 meters squared. These are very small. They state that it's intended to support housing supply and affordability. So just want to point out, Crescent Park has an average lot depth of 35 meters. So that, in theory, could mean a 5-meter frontage in those communities. They're either even further going and changing Part 34 of the Act that state that municipalities cannot create policies and regulations that regulate the minimum lot frontage or minimum lot depth of a parcel in such a way as to require the parcel to be greater than the prescribed area. So in our new zoning bylaw, this will be something that we'll have to address because we will not be able to put minimum frontage or depths that would not allow for the 175 meters. There are still setbacks that they would have to still comply with, but as council may be aware, through Bill 17, they did add automatic variances for setbacks. So those can be varied by 10% without them even coming in and asking for a minor variance. So the key themes across the proposal is increased provincial standardization, removing or reducing municipal discretion in planning and development approvals. And again, with a lot of this stuff, the details are going to be coming out later. So it's very difficult to judge what the total impacts to the municipality is going to be at this time. But, yeah. I don't have any notes for this one. Yeah, so essentially a lot of the requirements are not identified at this time. And yeah, really it's very unclear. So next step, staff will continue to monitor the ERO postings and regulatory releases, as well as we've prepared some formal comments for the town to submit, as well as we'll update council when the details of the changes come out. Yep, any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hare. Before we go to questions, I just wanted to welcome the Terrace family here. We're getting to you, and we'll be there as soon as we're finished with Mr. Hare. Any members of council have any questions? Councillor Dubanow and then Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Hare, thank you very much for your presentation. Can you go back to the slide that had the potential lot dimensions?
Yep, I believe this one.
Yeah, so let me just, I'm going to see if this sounds right. So potentially, just looking at this here, we would be bound by a provincial minimum, assuming size-wise, of, it looks like 23 feet of frontage by around 82 feet in depth. Does that sound about right to you? And we would have no...
I don't do Imperial, so.
You're working in Fort Erie, you got
I
it,
know.
buddy. No, fair enough. Just from looking at that, so based on this, would we lose the ability to regulate that to a size larger in neighborhood context or something along those lines?
I believe so.
I'll have some more comments when the report comes up, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. On the same slide, since we're there, it doesn't specify lot coverage. Do we have any idea? It tells the lots can be really small, but does it tell us how much of that lot can actually be covered with a
At this
building?
time, that's not a regulation that the province is proposing, so that would be essential thing that the municipality could regulate.
My next question, it sounds like there's a lot of big brother, meaning the Ontario government, that's going to be dictating changes, which will really affect what the town can and can't do.
That is correct.
And this basically one-size-fits-all approach?
From reading the transcripts of the discussions, yes, it definitely seems like they're going that way. There was specific comments made through question and answer period about, yes, taking one development from one municipality and essentially cookie cuttering it across the province.
I'm sure it concerns me, and I would imagine it concerns everyone on council. That's really going, and the town. This is very much going to change our community if it goes through.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Christensen.
Thank you very much. And I loved your comment about the potential cumulative impact. With respect to your colleagues in the planning profession, has there been any discussion about this, and I'm thinking up beyond the town, with respect to the potential overall cumulative impact on the province of Ontario?
I haven't heard anything specifically from planning professions. I do know that there are several companies right now that are looking into this and trying to write white papers on the matter. There's been several releases by different legal practices across Ontario, and yes, they do believe that this could drastically change communities and how they're formed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hare, so in terms of this little photograph that you've got up there, or slide, you made some reference to the side yard setbacks. People can apply for a reduction of up to 10% without applying for a minor variance. They'd have to apply for a minor variance or something other than that, beyond that.
Yes, they would still have to meet with the rest of our setbacks, but again, those can go through the Committee of Adjustment to be varied. But that 10% setback to a side yard, or essentially a setback, was introduced by Bill 17.
Just looking at the example on the left, the 5 meter by 35 meters, most of the lots in Crescent Park, and that's where this is coming from, I believe, are 80 feet wide, which is 22 or 23 meters, I think. Isn't it more likely that a developer would attempt to run down the middle of that lot and put housing units on either side?
Again, can't predict what every developer would be. Again, from looking into this, Houston tried something similar a few years ago, and not single detached dwellings, but it did spur a massive townhouse development. They started getting a lot of townhouses units.
And we, of course, need lots of townhouses in Fort Erie. So in terms of the minor variance process, which currently goes through the Committee of Adjustments, there could be the potential for changes to the policy by this council relative to that process? In other words, a minor variance doesn't have to go through a committee of adjustment, does it?
I believe it does if it's under the zoning bylaw. If we're going through the CPPS process, that can be delegated to either staff or then to council. But under the zoning bylaw, I believe committee of adjustment would be the only body that can do a minor variance.
All right. So that could be changed, or the other possibility is the committee of adjustment could become politicized, which it isn't currently, correct?
I don't know. I don't attend the committee of adjustments.
Okay, it doesn't have any representatives from the council on it.
No, it does not.
Okay. In terms of comments from other departments, so your your report deals only with the planning perspective, doesn't deal with some of the infrastructure challenges such as sewage capacity, for example?
No, it doesn't.
And my understanding is, in having read this information, that these changes would take effect in a community the size of Fort Erie, January the 1st, 2029?
That's where we're unclear of. It does look like what they're proposing, that the rules, yes, would come in effect at that time, but they're also stating that municipalities are still subject to the regular update. So when you first approve an official plan, you don't have to do any updates for a 10-year period. So we're not sure if we have to try to meet all these by 2029, or if this will be a 2036 project.
Okay, and any idea when that might be clarified?
It is in our draft letter to ask for that clarification.
Right, okay, and that's the draft letter that you've prepared, which I'm sure you don't mind if it's modified to
Not at all.
put some more points into it. Okay, great. Anyone else? If not, thank you very much, Mr. Hare. We'll deal with your report as we get down the agenda. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, we have the honor of recognizing a couple of young people in our community who have achieved some athletic prominence within our province. The first, ordinarily I would go with the girls before the boys, but this time we're going to deal with Daniel Terrace, who won a bronze medal in wrestling for Lakeshore Lakeshore High School at the Ontario Federation of School Athletic Association Championships in 2024. You can sit down for now, because what we'll do is, after I've read out the accolades for you and your sister, we'll go down, Councillor Dubanow and I, and we will provide you with a certificate of congratulations. So just relax for the moment. In 2025, he won the gold medal in wrestling for Lakeshore at the Southern Ontario Secondary School Association Championships. My understanding is that both Daniel and Lily Terrace, who we're also going to recognize this evening, come by the wrestling gene, honestly, since their father was a wrestler, and encouraged both of you to participate. He wasn't a wrestler.
Not that good.
Not,
Not even close.
okay, well, I have to say, I have wrestled with you, Mr. Terrace. But not physically.
That kind of wrestling, yes, we did wrestle. Yes, I was a wrestler.
Okay. And currently, my understanding is that Daniel is off to college to study electrical technologies? Okay. And you intend to keep on wrestling? You've been working with the Brock Junior Badgers, helping them. And it's wonderful for us to have the opportunity to recognize young people in our community who achieve such prominence. Lily is actually the current Ontario Federation of School Association gold medal winner, and she won that this year. Was that at Peterborough? At Peterborough, and she had previously this year won the Southern Ontario Secondary School Association gold medal, so that you've carried right through, and I understand that you still have another year of high school wrestling eligibility, so that next year you may be able to defend your championship and win a championship in a higher level, higher age group. This is something that you've been doing, I understand, since you were a young child, and this is the first provincial championship that your high school, Lakeshore, has had in 15 years at the Ontario level. So you're to be congratulated on that. And we're going to, Councillor Dubanow and I are now going to go down and we'll recognize both of you. This time we're going to start with the ladies. So Lily, if you would come forward, please. Get over on the other side. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you turn around. We're going to get a picture. Your dad's going to want to get a picture. And look at this. And then what we'll do is, Daniel, you'll come up and we'll get a photograph of you. And then we'll get one with both of you together. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice firm handshake.
Yeah.
Did that.
Thank you.
You get to keep this, and then Lily, why don't you come down and we'll get a picture of you and your brother. And
Should I open it?
yeah, let's open it.
Open it up. There you go, guys.
Congratulations to the parents. Well done, guys. Thank you.
Oh,
Well done.
thank you very much, guys.
So I have to say that was more fun than listening to you, Mr. Hare. No disrespect, but your material is rather vexing. Okay, so we've completed the delegations, and now we're going to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, then Councillor McDermott, I believe you have the resolution for the consent agenda. That's what my schedule says.
No, I don't have.
I didn't turn it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that council approves the consent agenda as recommended.
Are there any questions or comments arising out of anything? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. 13.2.2, the Ontario Land Tribunal OLT decision regarding High Street. In reading the report, one of the comments made was that even though the assessment that we had done indicated that it did meet the heritage designation, in the report, if I'm recalling it correctly, out of the 9 points, it didn't, according to the person who reviewed it, it didn't meet any of them. And therefore, it was turned down. So I'm just wondering, knowing that we perhaps need to look at how we are assessing these properties and the criteria that we're using for designation, because they're quite specific in what our assessment said made it a heritage feature, where they basically said, no, it doesn't fit with the Ontario rules about designation and stuff. So I'm just suggesting that we do look at this, because I don't, it takes it's an expensive process to go through, not just getting the designation, but on top of that, to get it turned down and be told that it didn't meet any of the 9, makes me wonder when we're doing this, that we have to be.
So for clarity, this turned out to be a consent proceeding after the report was received from the owner's person. And my understanding is that the committee is looking at tightening up those reports. Yeah, and The other thing is that I'm a little surprised that the report made specific reference to Benjamin Harrison and James Stanton, indicating that they're not significant individuals in the town's past, which is rather startling to me. But in any event, we've heard your comments, and they're well taken, and I believe the committee is looking at that.
Thank you.
Anyone else on any of the items in the consent agenda? If not, I'm going to call for the vote. Please note that Councillor... Okay. I'm going to wait for you to come back, Councillor Lewis, so we can vote on the consent agenda. Yeah, not at all. Okay. Did you have any questions or comments with respect to the consent agenda?
Nothing to the consent agenda,
Okay.
Your
All
worship.
those in favor then of the recommendations in the consent agenda? None opposed, that is carried. Takes us then to... what does it take us to? Takes us to report. My agenda. Yeah, okay, so now I've got PBBS 2026 is next on my agenda. I'm missing some pages. I think that's last week's addendum. Okay. All right. Okay, does someone have report, yeah, it is. It was. Okay, so report PBBS 12-2026 is being deferred. That takes us to new business inquiries, and that takes us to Councillor Lewis. Sorry. No, not yet. Councillor McDermott, you had something under new business.
Thank you, Worship. I think everybody has learned through the emails that I've sent forward with regards to the spill at Jerez, some of the complications that people were having. Many of the people in the North End, I had probably about 25 calls and a couple of emails with regards to dizziness, headaches. Those that have asthma were using their inhalers quite a bit. And it was pretty bad. People up that way, rather than enjoy a sunny and beautiful Earth Day, they were met by a mouth smell that was pretty noxious. So I guess I'm just going to take advantage of the mayor being so kind to me and sending me an email with regards to the discussion on reporting of these things, because apparently this happened on Monday and it was reported to us on a Thursday. And so just so people know that we are paying attention, I just want to read this for the public. The town is reliant on the Ministry of Environment to investigate these situations and properly respond. While the chief was monitoring the situation and tried to ascertain the reason for the odor and nature of the chemical spill, the town does not have the equipment or expertise to investigate such an incident. Communications could have been better and more robust. The town is capable, more than capable, of amplifying any messages from the ministry if we are given the information. I would suggest that we ask the ministry to provide the town with a report on the incident with particulars as to the start and finish of the leak, quantification, any air testing that was done, and if not, why not? Any communications to the public, and if none, why none? And mechanisms for notifying the municipality of such incidents and impacts and repercussions for our residents. I would also, in asking this, is for us to look into with Jerez, is how do we prevent these events from happening any further, because they are a real pain in the butt. And it's not necessary if you have proper procedures in hand So I would ask that we look into the nature of this, and hopefully we won't hear of it again. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor McDermott. So this is something that I've copied the CAO with respect to this, and the fire chief, both of whom are involved. This might be something that Mr. Piesel in infrastructure may want to chat with them about as well. It seems to me that if the ministry has a responsibility in this type of area, then they should at least get something out on their message facilities, which, as you have mentioned, we can amplify through our social media, to let people know if there's a problem, and if there isn't a problem, why they've decided there isn't a problem, what type of work has been done. In terms of future, the reality is that each of these manufacturers in our community and elsewhere that have chemical compounds that they process do have mechanisms to prevent an escape. And from what I've learned so far, that worked at Durez. The difficulty is there was an airborne element to this as well, and that's something that should have been clarified for the residents. And Mr. Jansen, you'll pass on to the CAO the concerns expressed by Councillor McDermott, and perhaps take that up as well with the chief and Mr. Piesel, the Director of Infrastructure Services. Anything further, Councillor McDermott?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
And thank you very much for bringing this up. This was a issue for a number of days at this end of the town. Anyone else have any new business or inquiries? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. My inquiry is about the Fort Erie Tennis Club and the tennis youth program. Just want some clarification, make sure there's not a misunderstanding. Anyone, and it does not preclude the Fort Erie Tennis Club to rent the tennis courts and to carry on the youth program.
That's correct.
That's correct. And that if they wanted to rent the courts, they could then designate, just like we do for hockey and things, certain times of the week, and that could be approved, and certain things for weekends, for tournaments and stuff. They are more than free to do that if they so wish. My understanding, they have chosen not to do that. But that does not preclude any other organization or an individual, a tennis coach or whatever, to do the same thing. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, but I don't know what the status of discussions with the Fort Erie Tennis Club is. Would you know that, Mr. Piesel?
You, Mr. Mayor, discussions with the Fort Erie Tennis Club at this moment is they are not going to continue with programming in 2026. They don't want to meet the demands of being able to rent the space to run their programs, and have elected to pull out for the 2026 season. We are seeking tennis professionals to host our own junior programs in-house.
Thank you for that. And I think it's unfortunate that the tennis club has taken that position, because it's a perfect opportunity. I even talked to the bingo, to Alexandra, she said, and if by any chance it would increase the cost to the bingo, that the rental fees are something that they can pay for with bingo funds, and they could have approached the gaming to see if they could get more higher allotment. So it's unfortunate, but I do hope that as we move forward that we have other options. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Noyes. Anyone else? Then that takes us to motions, and Councillor Lewis, you have a motion that now has been further articulated from when you first brought it forward. So please proceed.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen. Whereas Niagara Health previously committed to a 3-hospital system, including the continued operation of the Fort Erie Urgent Care Centre at the Fort Erie Douglas Memorial Hospital site. And whereas Niagara Health has revised its plans and no longer intend to continue operations at the Fort Erie Urgent Care Centre Douglas Memorial site following the opening of the new Niagara South Hospital. And whereas the town of Fort Erie has made ongoing efforts to work collaboratively with Niagara Health to address growing health needs and provide a local solution through the Reimagining Douglas Memorial that includes the continuation of the Fort Erie Urgent Care Services at the Douglas Memorial site. And whereas commitments made by Niagara Health to the residents of Niagara Region, especially Niagara South, including Fort Erie, have not been fulfilled, and there appears to be limited collaboration with the town of Fort Erie and the residents of Niagara. Whereas the town of Fort Erie also has serious concerns regarding Niagara Health's operating deficit of $28 million, and whereas the town of Fort Erie has additional concerns regarding governance and transparency, including the limited ability of Niagara Health board members to directly engage with, respond to, or answer questions from members of the public and community. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Fort Erie formally requests the resignation of the Niagara Health Board of Directors and the Chief Executive Officer, and that the town of Fort Erie calls upon the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, and the Honourable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health, to appoint a provincial supervisor to oversee operations at Niagara Health and to ensure that appropriate funding is provided for the continuation of urgent care services in Fort Erie to meet local health needs. That a copy of this resolution be sent to the region of Niagara, the 12 municipalities that make up the region of Niagara, the Association of Municipalities Ontario, and the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. And if I the motion, Your Worship. This, just for context, is the formal wording to a motion that was given months back when we started some troubled times with Niagara Health, and I thought it was important to get the wording on because this has been continually deferred because we are still in negotiations with both Niagara Health on reimagining Douglas Memorial Site, but as well with formal conversations with the Ministry of Health through our meetings at both AMO and Roma. So I wanted to submit this. I will speak to potential deferral at some point, potentially maybe after the AMO meetings in August, which would be the August 24th meeting. But I do want to say I know this is something that has been a common theme of support amongst the Horseshoe here at Council. Certainly a lot of hard work done by Councillor Christensen, Councillor McDermott, who held the file for a while, Your Worship, as well as everyone who sits around this, including staff. But I'm wondering if we might be able to get a bit of an update on where are we today as opposed to where we were several months back when we started this this formal process in terms of conversation and maybe some updates. I don't know if you're prepared for that, Your Worship.
Yeah, I'm, in the absence of the CAO, I've been on most of these meetings in any event, but as I indicated at the public meeting that was held, I guess a little over a week ago at the Leisureplex through Fort Erie Healthcare SOS, there's been a lot of forward movement, at least from our perspective, in terms of the reimagining Douglas Memorial. That has involved the hiring by the municipality of a consultant, a construction consultant, to go through the facility and provide us with advice as to any frailties, any needs for upgrading, depending on the type of services we might put in there. And we have received good cooperation from Niagara Health in terms of that access. More recently, the consultant that we've hired to put together the business case for our proposal to utilize Douglas Memorial going forward has also been given access to the facility and has had an opportunity to do its own assessment as to what could fit in there in terms of the services that we're looking for. And then finally, we've also had access to the building because we don't know at this stage of the game what the actual market value of the building is. Niagara Health has indicated that they're prepared to convey it to us for $2 if we're prepared to give them the local share that they have assigned to us. We think that it's more prudent for us to find out what the building's actually worth before we would commit anything. Most recently, on April the 23rd, which was last Thursday, the CAO and I met with the president of Niagara Health and one of the senior vice presidents, the one responsible for raising the local share, and communications assistant, Josh Upper. I had intended to send out something to all of you. I just been overwhelmed by not only things going on in town, but also I had the pleasure of having my 3 grandsons for part of the weekend, and that was, I have to tell you, high maintenance in any event. So the meeting did really focus on their concern, which was the local contribution by the town of Fort Erie in the context in which they find themselves, and they find themselves significantly underfunded at this point in terms of how much money they require in order to complete that hospital. So this is a matter of great concern to them. We indicated, the CAO and I, that in terms of the local share, that's something that we're not prepared in this council, in my estimation, would not be prepared to entertain at this stage, and maybe never in the full amount that they're asking for. And we'll have a much better idea of what the potential for us at Douglas Memorial will be after we hear from Santis, and after we've got the report from StuCor, and after we know what that building is worth. And I will say that they're under a lot of pressure on this local share, because the provincial government, I think, expects that when they started this process of constructing a new hospital, the funds would be available. That's, there have been some significant cost escalations on the one hand. On the other hand, they've indicated to municipalities that they're expecting a greater share contribution than I think some of the municipalities, perhaps all the municipalities, were contemplating. So there's a bit of an issue there. And then, of course, this is all tied into the reality that it's, as I explained to both Ms. Guerrero and Ms. Bassi, people in Fort Erie are puzzled that we would be asked as a municipality to provide $10.5 million for the construction of a new hospital, which will undoubtedly assist our residents in terms of secondary and tertiary care. But at the same time, Niagara Health would be actually vacating Fort Erie. That is a hard sell for anybody, and I wanted to make sure that they understand that we are responsive to the people that live in this community. We live in this community, and we have, as stewards of the welfare of the community and the financial resources of the community, some great responsibilities in that regard. So it was a positive meeting in the sense that it was constructive. They had an opportunity to take a couple of runs at trying to advance their issue. There was a request for us to even consider at this stage advancing the $3 million and revisiting the matter later on. And I said that that's, again, my assessment of the attitude of the council is that that is not going to happen until we've got some further information as to what we can do with Douglas Memorial, what the Minister of Health's position is on that, what the other health agencies in Ontario may say on this, and what Niagara Health's position could be. So that, sorry to ramble on here, but that kind of brings us to where we are right now. So we're still having dialogue with them. We're still trying to move forward our issues. We have requested that they be supportive of our efforts, and they seemed to be interested in doing that. They say that they have been working on our behalf on some aspects of reimagining Douglas behind the scenes. One of them could be the diagnostic imaging aspect. So there is some, I would say, fertile ground still to be tilled, but we all know that we're going to come to a point where somebody has to move. Either we move, they move, the Minister of Health moves. Hopefully, it'll be all three in the direction that we want. So I do believe that it would be prudent if we could have a bit more latitude with respect to your motion to allow us to continue these discussions with Niagara Health.
Yeah, and happy to hear what other members of council have to say as well, if any. But it is the intent that hopefully we don't have to move forward at any date with this motion, and certainly taking the time to draft it with input from other members of council. It's something that I don't enjoy doing, but I think it's necessary to draw the line in the sand officially where we are, and hope that the continued discussions bear some fruit. Can I just clarify as well, up until now there has still been no request from the Niagara Health for additional funding for urgent care services in Niagara. I believe they have not made any formal request.
To the province?
Correct.
Don't believe that they have, but I can tell you that the resources that are being allocated have increased. So there's some more human resources that are being allocated. They've been working hard at that, and Dr. Chan, who is responsible now for the emergency departments, recognizes the importance of the throughput aspect of the emergency departments. So I don't know if they've specifically asked for, but they have been providing some additional resources.
Thank you.
Before we go back to Councillor Lewis, does anyone wish to say comment? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. And certainly if council wants to entertain postponing this, I'm open to that. I personally, my feeling is I'm not sure what that would do, but at the same time, I do believe that we need to act in good faith and find a way out of this rather than get headlocked in right now. But I just want to offer up a few comments with respect to how I view this situation and some of the frustrations that I see or feel when I see deficits and I see requests for funding. And what I believe is perhaps leadership that is, looking at things one way because that has been the way that they set it up and they want their way to succeed, when the reality of the situation is there have been drastic changes since those plans were put in place. It also doesn't help as well that there was an initial commitment to maintain the urgent care centers in Fort Erie and Port Colborne, which has now changed as well. So on one hand, we recognize that things do change and reality does change and you adapt to it. But at the other hand, we seem to be stuck in the mud and our wheels spinning on another. I look at all this funding and these deficits and these requests for, municipal funding and all these other aspects. And to me, this is all just, just numbers being thrown around and all sorts of other things. And, I look at the instead of the numbers, I look at what is actually being done. And to the credit of Dr. Chan, who I do believe has been working hard to try and find these solutions, he's a medical doctor. He understands, or at least seems to be coming around to understanding the management of the physician resources and the medical resources. But I have a lot of concerns about the leadership outside of that. And, when we hear about a $28 million deficit, it concerns me where the cutbacks, go back a few months ago, Niagara Health was laying off, frontline workers rather than, finding efficiencies and other ways to cut this back. They closed the long-term care home that they operated in Welland, despite the fact that alternative level of care beds are a concern that we have, and the throughput to be able to get people out of the ER and into the bed they need is kind of a concern as well, and it just seems counterintuitive. And even looking at, there was the recent coroner inquest with, God bless her heart, Heather Winterstein, and there was not the care that was needed, and it seems like there was admission that things were just not handled that well. And instead of asking for, they're asking for money for buildings and they're asking for local shares and all this, and we're still stuck with this fundamental gap that the issue is the care that they offer and the services they offer to the community. And so it's going to be real interesting. I think it's worthwhile if we want to postpone this, maybe to have more conversations with the ministry. Maybe we can find a meeting of the minds between what Queen's Park is willing to do, what we can do with reimagining Douglas Memorial, and what Niagara Health is willing to do. I think we have the opportunity for a win-win-win that makes everyone happy and achieves our goals if we can contextualize it properly. But barring that, Niagara Health has been here before. It seems like everything that's old is new again with how they get, stuck in the mud with what they're trying to do rather than looking at the bigger picture. I genuinely don't feel that that's going to change, but I like to keep an open mind. I like to act in good faith. And if council feels that a postponement is beneficial, and may allow us to work better. I'm open to that. I'm just laying out my feelings on this, Your Worship, and those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor McDermott and then Councillor Christensen.
Where to start? Well, I guess I'd say that residents, at least in my ward and probably across Ward Erie, have made it crystal clear they expect reliable, sustainable urgent care close to home. And we've collaborated in good faith. We've attended public forums, detailed re-imaging proposals, presentations to the Niagara Health Board. Yet we keep seeing service reductions and a firm plan to walk away from Douglas Memorial once the new South Niagara Hospital opens. That feels like a broken commitment to Niagara South. And the deficit numbers and lack of direct board engagement with the public only deepens that concern with me. So today's motion sends a strong message that enough is enough. You know, once you get in the doors of the hospital, it's great. They provide a wonderful service. But there is this impression that once the hospital is in full build, they'll never have these lineups again. Well, you know what, those lineups are going to continue, and they'll probably even get even worse, especially from our area because of the lack of 24/7 transport and the fact that you have to call an ambulance every time you feel like you got to go. And it might not be an emergency, it might be an urgent care thing, so you get there, you sit in line, wait until somebody takes care of you, and the next thing you know, you have to get home, and hopefully you'll have that $40 or $50 to get home. You know what? This council should be congratulated for keeping this fight up year in and year out. This isn't, unfortunately, this isn't our first rodeo. And, you know, we've been through the closures. We've been through fighting to get an urgent care center, you know. And then you sit there with the minister across the table, and to be quite honest, it was kind of a weird thing for me because the minister didn't seem to be paying too much attention to what we had to say. I'll give the Liberals at least some kudos. When we went to talk to them, they understood and they worked with us to try and find solutions to that. The fact that the Linds are gone doesn't really mean squat either, because when you go to talk to Niagara Health, you know, His Worship probably spends a couple of days putting together a nice presentation yet. The board sits silent. You can't ask questions of the person that you... What world do these people live in? Like, I know Ms. Guerrero is well heeled. She makes over $200,000 more than the Prime Minister of Canada, and all she's got on her hands is 3 hospitals. So, you know, to walk into our town and say, your game's up here, get used to that fact. When she came originally, talked to the people. Well, we can't let that happen. So I'm not sure if a supervisor will ever be put in, but you know what we really need is some practical solutions that aren't going to change every time a government changes, that are written in stone for all of us to know and understand. So I applaud your efforts, Councillor Lewis. I'm with you 100%.
Councillor McDermott, I would say that from my perspective, the Minister of Health and her staff have actually been quite responsive. They've maybe at the meeting that you were at, that didn't appear to be the case, but they have been from my perspective. I'm sorry?
He said maybe that just didn't trickle down to us the last time I seen her.
Okay, you were in the same room, I think.
I was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Christensen, and then I understand Councillor Noyes, you had your hand up as well.
I think Councillor McDermott very clearly spoke to the on the ground, and I guess that's the driver for me in terms of a perspective. I've been working in and around not in hospitals, but in community health care. And year after year, for about 45 years, working through district health councils, which were the old planning model, communities made proposals, and the hospitals would go into the minister after allocations had been recommended to the ministry. And the Ontario Hospital Association would go in and say that they needed a few $1 million to balance budgets. 45 years later, the ask was a couple of $2 billion. And I understand that the ministry sawed it off at around instead of $2 billion, gave them about $1 billion to try and help manage the operating problems, not the capital issues, but the operating issues in hospitals. That tells me that there is a fundamental dysfunction in the way in which hospitals in general, and it's probably the case across Canada, but definitely within Ontario, that there has been a consistent lack of looking at the way in which care is delivered, the mechanisms, the administration, the organizational structures. I don't know the answers, but it is something to be looked at. We can't fix that. And I think that Ms. Guerriero and the board chair, who are interested largely in the healthcare excellence within their mandate and fiscal probity within their mandate, and facing a system that, to me, doesn't work, that the way in which to get solutions, and we know that communities have done this in various parts of the country, that what we're looking at is local solutions. The best way for Ms. Guerriero and her board to support the operation of her hospitals is, in fact, to participate in finding local solutions. That's what we've been doing with very modest acknowledgement because their business is running the hospitals. I think it is quite critical that we continue to approach the Minister of Health. I would agree with the Mayor. I think the last meeting with the Minister was less receptive than perhaps previous ones, and there was a timing issue that impinged on our meeting, so that might have been the thing that didn't result in as receptive, as positive a reception or our perception as in the under previous meetings. However, I think that what we need to do is to work with this motion, with which I agree, but also to potentially use that to motivate Niagara Health to actually participate more actively in supporting the solutions that we are trying to find. I mean, frankly, I've said it before, they can go away and do their job, do an excellent job. If I have a heart attack, I want to make sure that I get the best possible care. But I also know that if there's a blizzard here, or there's a child at 3 a.m. With an earache and a spiking fever, that the parents in this town can actually find support for their child in the middle of the night. That is not primary care, by the way. Primary care doesn't operate 24/7. Urgent care does. I want to know that maybe we have the capacity to provide support for a kid in a hockey game that has a green stick fracture, and all it needs is an x-ray and it doesn't need surgery, it needs casting. I'm not a physician, I am not a nurse, I'm just a policy wonk. But it seems to me that we have some solutions, we've raised them, and Councillor Lewis's motion is, I think, expressing our frustration about the lack of positive support in our search for our solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. When I read and heard the proposal of the motion, and I hear the thing provincial supervisor, brings me back to the days of Dr. Mills. And that was going to be the be-all and end-all, and weren't we all going to be wonderful? And then amalgamation was a result of it, and we've continued to evolve from that amalgamation to what we're being presented with now. It all started with the provincial supervisor's recommendations. So I do question, it really depends on who we get and what the mindset of that provincial supervisor is going to be. The current hospitals that we have, including the urgent care, they can't handle the intake now. How are they going to handle the increased load once the urgent care centers are closed? People are waiting 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, and on top of that, it's called hallway medicine. I like that's a new term. It's not all that new, unfortunately. It's been around for a while, where patients are kept for days, if not weeks, in a hallway, no privacy, really not conducive. The environment is not conducive to them recovering or health care. You visit somebody, you're visiting them in the hallway. You're listening to the person next to you in the hallway, and the doctor, and et cetera, et cetera. There's no privacy at all in that. So they're kind of breaking their own laws, and I don't know how closing the urgent care is going to improve any of this. It's just going to make it worse. And just earlier today, we had how the provincial government, I don't know if the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, because we just had this big thing that the Ontario government wants to increase housing, makes the lots smaller, put more houses, more people, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not negating that we need more housing. I'm not negating that like our population is going to grow. But does the left hand know what the right hand is doing? It just doesn't jive together. There's really a lack of foresight for this. I think, again, I fully support Councillor Lewis's motion. I think we do have to keep up the fight, keep explaining to them what I think is so apparent already, but they just don't seem to be getting the message. So I think we have to keep doing that. And I also think our approach that it's actually a cost savings what we're offering. It's going to save them money, not cost them money, and it's going to improve the quality of care that we're getting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Noyes. Back to you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, and I keep hearing my motion, but really this is a reflection, as Councillor McDermott said, of I think how we are all feeling around the table. So that being said, I will move a motion to defer to the regular council meeting of August the 24th, unless it needs to come back sooner.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Councillor
Christensen? Did you say August 22nd?
August 24th.
24th.
According to the clerk.
Okay, so there, no debate about the motion to defer, except with respect to timing. If there is anything there, all those in favor of deferring Councillor Lewis's motion to August 24th? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, that takes us to the next item, which is notice of motion. Anyone wish to give notice of motion? Councillor Christensen.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd like to give notice of motion to come to the next regular council meeting with respect to asking the Hockey Hall of Fame to increase its accessibility features for those members of the Hall of Fame who are attending in a wheelchair. Thank you.
Okay. Any other notices? If not, that takes us to consideration of bylaws. Are there any bylaws that anyone wishes removed from the package? Councillor Noyes. Not the one about the trees.
You're a mind reader now. And I will be asking for a registered vote for this one too. 18.4, 27-2026, the tree bylaw.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other items? If not, then keeping up to date. Okay, Councillor, McDermott. You will be providing third and final reading for the bylaw 22-2026, which is the Parks and Beaches bylaw. That's resolution number 5. You have that? Okay. Please proceed.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 22-2026 to regulate the use of parks and beaches in the town of Fort Erie and to repeal and replace bylaw 119-03 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
In one of the sections, it does talk about the timing, when it's going to be closed and open, but it does say, it does leave an opening that if a particular park, there's a reason for it to be closed earlier, they can ask for the time to be changed. It says something like, unless otherwise stated or something like that. And I do think that we need to keep that in there so that if there's a particular park, I'm thinking of the one on Ott Road, it's closed now after the baseball games and for all the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dewaria, this is in your area, is it not? So I noticed that one of the, in Appendix A, one of the offenses is to distribute material in a park. And I would have thought that that might be a violation of freedom of speech. Do you have any comments on that, or does...
Your Worship, if I could ask Mr. McCaffrey to speak to that?
He can, and I note that we also have the lawyer here. Please come forward, Mr. McCaffrey, if you... I know that your staff had some involvement in the preparation of this, and I apologize for bringing this up. I couldn't meet with Ms. Dewaria earlier today.
Mr. Mayor and Councillors, we have not had any specific incident similar to that, but I would imagine it could just be something like a notice of a community event, or it could be as much as what you've stated, freedom of speech. But I think we would look at each particular instance that occurred and take that into consideration. If it was a freedom of speech issue, we would not act on it.
Thank you. And I noticed that that's attached to also affix material to something in the park, and I can understand that. Since you're up there, there's also a violation for parking a vehicle in excess of 5 hours, presumably in a parking lot in a park. If you go to the beach and you want to stay for more than 5 hours?
I'm going to assume that would be specific to the time the park closes, but I'm not familiar with specific when we have ever enforced that.
Okay. Perhaps between now, presuming this passes and I sign it, you could maybe...
I can look into that further.
Thank you very much.
I know we've never done that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Councillor Noyes?
Yes, on 3.2, and I'm reading it a few times, and I'm trying to think, okay, does this make sense or does it not make sense? Basically, it says that no person shall play, practice, strike, or throw a golf ball or play or practice sports, such as, but not limited to, and it gives a number of them, deemed by the director to be dangerous to public safety in any area of parks, except those areas physically laid out, designated, and are improved for such use. So, what about the open spaces that we have in the parks? Somebody wants to, play catch with their son or hit a ball or whatever. Do they need permission? And we don't want it to be dangerous. We're not going to, the director's not going to approve anything that's dangerous, regardless of whether it's in a designated or improved area. Like the open space, like there's a lot of open spaces that they're used for different things, like, football and things like that, just like a kind of like a neighborhood makeup game.
So I'm going to ask the town solicitor to take, that's section 3.2 of the
Yeah.
bylaw. It's not a change. This bylaw arises out of some changes that were made. This is an existing one. It's 3.2. I've read through this. Mr. Riley, you might be able to read through it as well. And I think the focus is the safety aspect as opposed to the activity in itself. But you're a lawyer. I'm just a retired lawyer.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, the section is specific to dangerous, it's specific to like danger to the public safety. So if the activity can be done in a safe manner and it's not a danger to the public safety, I doubt that there's going to be any action that's going to be taken from the town. So I think that's what that section is trying to accomplish. Thanks.
Councillor Noyes?
Fair enough, but I'm thinking even if the position, even if that's what the activity is laid out for, it still shouldn't be dangerous. It kind of sounds like if it's laid out, then you can be dangerous. If it's not laid out, then danger comes into it. I just think the way the wording is a bit strange.
Anyone else? I'm going to call the question. This is third and final reading. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. That takes us then to the bylaw package. Who has that now? Councillor Christensen or Councillor Lewis? You both put your hands up. Okay. This is the bylaw package for first and second reading.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay, and so you'll note that bylaw 27/2026 is out of the package and will be dealt with separately.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that the bylaw package containing 25/2026 to assume ownership and responsibility for the secondary services for the Oaks at 6 Mile Creek subdivision, phases 1, 2, and 3, 26/2026 to authorize entry into an amending agreement to the Niagara Region Courts Intermunicipal Agreement, Amendment 3, Vision Zero Road Safety Program, 28/2026 to set the 2026 tax rates and to levy taxes for the year 2026, 29/2026 to adopt a policy for the use of corporate resources for election purposes for the town of Fort Erie and to repeal bylaw 6218, 30/2026 to amend lot maintenance bylaw 92/2019 to update regulations respecting vegetation and naturalized areas, 31/2026 to authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement with Yilaming Real Estate International Limited regarding the Spears Garden subdivision, 32/2026 to authorize the entry into an agreement for the management of community gardens, 33/2026 to amend the user fees and charges bylaw 102/2025 and the municipal parking lot use and maintenance policy bylaw 112/2023 and 34/2026 to appoint temporary municipal law enforcement officers for the 2026 summer season are given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. That bylaw package is on the floor for any questions or comments. Councillor Noyes.
Yes, bylaw number 25-2026, to assume the ownership and responsibility of the Oaks at 6 Mile Creek subdivision. I'm just wondering, when was the last time we actually checked it all out to make sure the trees are alive, the sidewalks aren't cracked?
Ms. Dewar, would you be able to comment on that?
Your worship, that would be Mr. Peasel.
Mr. Peasel, can you comment on that?
Yes, we do all our inspections prior to taking over final assumption of the subdivision, so that would have been done recently.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Before I go to third and final reading of that amended bylaw package. If not, then Councillor Christensen, do you also have third and final reading?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaws 25/2026 to 26, 2026, and 28, 2026 to 34, 2026 are given for third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So that takes us then back to bylaw 2726. Could you please provide first and second reading of that, Councillor Christensen?
Yes. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw 27, 2026 to regulate the destruction and injuring of trees and repeal bylaw 33, 2024 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, so it's on the floor now. That's carried. It's on the floor. Councillor Noyes.
Yeah, unfortunately, my computer decided to freeze, so I don't have it in front of me. It must have known, but I'm sure I can remember most of it. I would like to get this going, though. It's not letting me.
Cole, can you...
Hang on, maybe I can get it. It's just freezing. Yeah, so I push next, it doesn't let me. It does that. I think one of you guys purposely did this. Okay, so I can't tell you the numbers or whatever. Okay, as you know, I'm not for us to be bothering Mr. and Mrs. Smith with their trees in their front yard or their backyard. But when I've read this a few times, and I did have a chance to talk again to Phil about this, when I'm reading one of the things, okay, so if I chop down a tree without a permit and I leave the stump, I'm going to pay $1,500. Right? No permit, shouldn't have done it, $1,500, right? So if I chop down the tree and I don't leave the stump, it's $6,000. Does that make any sense to anybody?
Well, Councillor Noyes, the rationale is that the presumption is that if you're taking out the stump, you're attempting to eliminate the evidence that you've cut down the tree. So what you're trying to do is circumvent the rule.
Taking down the tree is circumventing the rule.
And taking out the stump is trying to circumvent the fact that you've taken down the tree in contravention of the rules. So you're exacerbating the inappropriate conduct.
Okay. Okay, so if I take down, okay, so $6,000 to take a tree down, including the stump. You guys are all fine with that. That's a good thing for Mr. Jones or Mr. Smith or whatever. You're all fine with that? No, they don't have a permit. They're bad. They shouldn't have done it. They have to pay $1,500.
Okay, so Councillor Noyes, this is your opportunity to make comments.
Okay, so
we're not going to be responding to your questions.
So that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And the same thing too, it doesn't make any difference if the stump is gone, if you know the tree's been removed, if it's a one-to-one, if it's a person's residence, it doesn't matter how big the tree was. It's a one-to-one ratio, so it doesn't matter how big the stump was. So you're not trying to hide anything. If you know the tree's gone, the tree's gone. If all that's left is a stump, it makes no sense whatsoever. But okay, and going on to that is that I wish I had my points, but I don't. Trying to remember the other points. If you go to the town website and you punch in tree bylaw, and you will find that the first thing that comes up is a presentation. So if I'm Mr. Smith and I'm trying to find out about the tree bylaw, and I punch in tree bylaw, I go to the town's website and I pull it up, and basically I'm reading it. It tells me I have to hire my own arborist. It says a lot of things that don't exist. It doesn't talk about the invasive trees, it doesn't talk about anything. It's never been updated. So then I go to the next one. The next one is like, okay, well, maybe I should look a little further. So then I hit the next one. And the bylaw isn't the current bylaw. It's an older bylaw. I have to go down about three or four places to actually find the current bylaw that we're now changing again. So I remember talking to, like, ignorance of the law is no exception. If I should look at my own, if I should go to the town's website, I would be more than confused after I read the first thing. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with the bylaws. You need to take that all completely out, remove it, do something with it, because you're not, it doesn't make any sense with the bylaws. That never, actually, the one that we actually have on the website, not the tree bylaw, the first thing that you pull up, was never existed. Like, I mean, it existed on paper, but those are never the rules. We never had to hire our own arborist. It was always the town was going to provide the arborist.
That's what the rule is. The town provides the arborist.
I know, but if you read that thing that they said, you have to provide the arborist, according to the first presentation, if you hit it. So my suggestion is that we really need to clean up our website for the tree bylaw, take out what doesn't exist anymore, and I can't blame Mr. and Mrs. Smith for being really, really confused about what they're supposed to do and not to do. And when I look up the exemption letter, is there an exemption letter that we can look at? Is there someplace I can find the exemption letter?
Abrams, did you want to come forward and respond to any of these comments?
Maybe if I turn the computer right off.
Thank you.
We do have a standard exemption letter that, sorry, my name's Jessica. I'm the senior environmental planner for the town. My apologies. Thank you, Your Worship. To your question, through the chair to Councillor Noyes, to answer your question, we do have a standard exemption letter. I don't believe we have it on the website. That's something we could take under advisement, and we could speak with our IT people to update that information if that's requested by council.
If I can continue? Another question. Okay, so when I'm looking up, I'm looking for a tree permit, right? Anywhere in that tree permit talk about a stump?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
If I fill in, you have all these questions. I'm going to, you hit the tree permit. I'm asking for a tree permit. So I go onto the website and I get the tree permit and I get to populate that. Anywhere on that tree permit, does it talk about stumps? Anywhere?
I don't believe it does.
It doesn't. I couldn't find it. Okay. But yet we're going to charge them $4,500 for removing a stump, even though there isn't even a permit for it. Wonderful. Going on past that, now remember the invasive species. We changed it 2 times ago to include any invasive species. Okay, it's been changed back again to a list of 10 or 12, I don't know, and I particularly don't know any invasive species that isn't listed, I don't know. But why would we take out the word any or the following, including the following or whatever, so that if there's another invasive species that's identified, that we don't have to change this bylaw, we don't have to do housekeeping. Now, I did talk to Mr. Terry about this and something about, because there's not a definition of invasive species in Ontario, we wouldn't know. If somebody says it's an invasive tree, then we wouldn't know if it was or it wasn't. But I would think that person would probably provide evidence.
Okay, so just hold on a second. I'm not even following you myself. Somebody wouldn't know if it's an invasive species or not. Is that what you just said?
Well, that's what Mr. Terry said.
Who?
Mr. Terry.
Okay.
Edward.
Well,
Terry.
all right. He's not here, so I don't know whether that's what he said, but the bylaw lists a number of invasive species, and they're not exclusive.
No, it is, according to this bylaw, it's exclusive.
That's not my, do you have the bylaw in front of you?
I don't have the bylaw in front of me. I could get back to you on that information if that's okay. I'll
Trust me, it's
look into that
expensive.
a bit more closely.
Well, I don't think we'll trust you on that point.
Well, I had a long discussion with Mr. Terry to say, why can't we put the word in any, or including the following? And he explained that because the Ontario government doesn't have a whole list of all the invasive, if someone calls it an invasive tree, how would we know if it is or if it isn't? That was, I'm paraphrasing here. So yes, it absolutely took out the word any.
I don't believe that's correct, but if for some reason it's not,
Okay,
Mr. Riley, have you pulled up the bylaws?
I have the bylaw in front of me, Your Worship.
And which section we're referring to?
It's
right
section
now?
6.1.
Does it say?
Point 1. It says the injuring or destruction of the following invasive species, including the following tree species. And then it lists about 12, 15, 16 invasive trees.
Okay, so if that needs to be broadened to include any invasive species, that's something that I think should be done. That's the intention.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Riley, I'll leave that with you to provide some advice on that before this amendments to this bylaw are passed, or at least I sign them, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Noyes?
Well, considering I can't read my own notes, I'm going to give it a rest. You guys all know where I stand on this. And
Okay.
I hope you never take out a stump.
We won't because it's too expensive if you get caught. Thank you very much, Ms. Abrams.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else to the bylaw? Okay, then Councillor Christensen, we're going to go to third and final reading. And you want a registered vote, right?
Moved by myself, bylaw 27
Recorded vote on that, please.
did vote.
Councillor Christensen,
Yes.
Councillor Dubanow,
Yes.
Councillor Lewis,
Yes.
Councillor McDermott,
Yes.
Councillor Noyes,
No.
Mayor Redekop.
Yes.
That is
No,
carried.
that's carried.
Carried. My apologies.
Okay. That then takes us to the confirmatory bylaw, and Councillor Noyes, I believe you have first and second reading for the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaw number 35-2026 to confirm the action of council at its council and committee meeting held on April 13th, 2026, at its regular council meeting held on April 27th, 2026 is given first and second reading. I do have a question. I wasn't here on April 13th. Does that make it?
I think it does, and I think that should probably, I think if you weren't here, I think that should be handed to Councillor Dubanow, and we'll get a second. Thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Noyes. Please.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lewis that bylaw 35-2026 to confirm the actions of council at its council and committee meeting held on April 13th, 2026, and its regular council meeting held on April 27th, 2026 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. And third and final reading, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 35-2026 is given third and final reading, be signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Noyes.
There's an accessibility meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock in Committee Room 1.
Any other meetings? Councillor Christensen.
There's a Community Health Services Committee meeting at the LeisurePlex, Committee Room 1 tomorrow's April 28th at 4 p.m. There is a Planning, Building and Bylaw Business Subcommittee meeting in Conference Room 3 on April the 5th at 2:15.
May the 5th?
May 5th, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm losing a month. Stalwartly pushing the time back. And
Congratulations if it works. Congratulations if it works.
Yeah. On May the 6th at 10 a.m., the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee is meeting in Committee Room 1, and the Bridgeway BIA is meeting at the Centennial, the Crystal Ridge Library at 5:30 p.m. on May 6th. Gee, I really want to push time back.
Yeah, we all do. Okay, if there are no other meetings to be announced, then Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship, best part of the evening, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noyes, that council adjourns at 7:36 p.m. to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on May 25th, 2026.
All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.